Alrighty guys, how are you guys feeling so far? Thanks for sticking around during the intermission there. Congrats to all of our racers in group stages. That was absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much to Bobby for helping out with commentary as well. We're going to bring in EGAD to help out, and Dream Hazard is going to stay with us. So we have our semifinals coming up here. We have TwoCplus in the top left versus karterfreak on the bottom left, and right side we have Rollllll versus TKY. These are your semifinalists. So this is straight up single elimination for the end of the ONOT. So this is where it's going to count. There are no other players. We're not going to be swapping screens. You're going to get the full meal deal here. And with that said, I'm going to let our commentators take this away and queue up the race. So have fun all.
All right, thank you so much. So we are looking to see two races at the same time here. As we've been told, we're going to see left side is one race, right side is the other. All right, so what we're going to see here is the full effect of the efficiencies that these runners have built into their platforming. So we're not going to be hopping around. We're actually going to see the full run.
It's interesting to me to see, like just the really subtle differences early on, like as early as this elevator, just seeing which runners decide to jump out early and which runners decide to wait. It saves almost no time at all. But that's something I always look out for some reason. That's just something I always do myself.
Yeah, as we mentioned during the first race, we saw a lot of people taking really short jumps to minimize the amount of time in the air so they could re-jump much more quickly.
Something that I really tend to focus on as I watch this is just comparing my routes to the runners that we're watching now, and just seeing like just the smallest optimizations at this very high level play compared to myself at the very least. Just seeing like they've saved enough time that they have to do a damage boost in a section that I never even have to do. And interesting things like that. It's extremely interesting for me to see and to compare.
Yeah, so it was difficult to see that level of detail during the race because we were making sure everyone got some decent airtime and everyone kind of got a good example of the different runners, and we were seeing people taking sections in different manner. But you know, now we're getting a good overview of how a single run will look, and we can compare them in real time.
I really like to see as well some optimizations that aren't usually taken in certain runners' runs. For example, 2C here. Well, okay, he got hit there, and that's not what I'm talking about. he didn't. Sorry, I actually sidetracked myself because I got distracted by him getting hit. But he didn't damage boost in the laser section where the the halls are there with the big lasers that shoot at you. He doesn't damage boost those. He actually killed at least one of them, and that's something that can save a few seconds. But at the end of the day, with all the optimizations they have throughout a run, it just goes to show that you don't have to do every single thing perfect to get a really good run.
Yeah, and it was interesting to see where he was in the tunnel, where it's the same height as the character, just turning left so that the damage boost would carry him right.
Yeah.
Because you get knocked backwards.
I think that's my favorite damage boost in the whole run, honestly, is that one in the tunnel. Yeah. Because it just like goes, it really, in my opinion, shows off the amount of speed boost you get from a damage boost better than any of the other ones in the run. Just because it's a tanky enemy, it takes 3 slashes to hit. That can take, 4 seconds to do. Or, like you just said, you just face left and you get pushed to the right and all of a sudden you just saved 2 or 3 seconds. And I think it's a really good example for people, or at least for me when I was learning the run, just seeing it and seeing like this is an important skill to have because it does save a few seconds every time you do it.
Yeah, and I imagine it's really consistent too. So how many times have you come out of that door and jumped up straight into the laser?
Oh man, honestly, I wish you wouldn't have asked. I hate to admit it, but one of the most common deaths I had in the first week of running the game was that laser. Just in different segments of that section is just like, I bet I could make that. It's just starting the animation, and then I go and I die just before I get out of it or whatever. And that's something that I saw too in a lot of early runs from everybody. So I think it's just a matter of really learning the timing of when all of the attacks happen of different enemies and how long animations take and stuff. And so you get really cocky when you make it the first time. You're like, oh, I did that once, I could do it again. And then you just start making bad jumps. That's just how it goes. It is really, really cool though to see the optimizations that have happened in the people who've been running it the longest or the most amount of time. I started a few days after everyone else did, just because I didn't really have much time to play it. And then I also have like half the time roughly versus like 2C and Carter. But in part of that sort of worked to my advantage because I got to see everyone like really figure out strats early on and figure out what does and doesn't work. Cool. Which has been super helpful because this is actually my first speed game.
Okay, it's it's not something I would recommend for an early speed game. I haven't actually run this game, but yeah, it's more difficult than the typical things that you see suggested.
Yeah, that's I've come to learn that, and people have told me that a lot, but I already committed, you know?
Yeah.
It draws inspiration from a lot of my favorite classic NES games and SNES games. Like, I played so much Ninja Gaiden, and I just really love that style of game.
Yeah. So we were
and
talking.
It's published by Yacht
race.
Club.
Yeah. We were talking during the first race about sort of some of the inspirations and parallels with other games, because it's it's very reminiscent of quite a lot of games and the best parts of some of those games.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of games I've never actually heard of being compared to it, and then I look up footage of that game and I'm like, wow, like there's a lot about this. I don't remember what the game specifically that Carter had mentioned to me, but he was talking about the parry system being similar to a game. And when I watched footage of that game, I was like, there's a lot about this that I really don't like, but then this parry system is excellent, and then this game draws inspiration from that and does it well. And same with, Ninja Gaiden. It has like the quick hack and slashy action of that game, but then it's got a little bit better in the way of like meaningful enemy placement and things like that, which Ninja Gaiden, in my opinion, was kind of lacking. And just a lot of that stuff, and that's kind of made this game maybe my favorite game that's come out this year so far. Probably. Yeah. I mean, I have 70 hours into it now, so it's but it's really good.
I think I would struggle to choose between this and Valheim, but yeah, I think I would agree with you. It's fantastic.
I've missed the Valheim train so far, so I can't speak to that. I've watched some of it, but I think that so far, though, one of my favorite parts about being a new speedrunner to a new game is just like seeing these people get so good in such a small period of time and just seeing their progress over time. Like every time I see somebody like Roll posts like I got a new PB and it's like 15 minutes faster than the last one, it's really exciting.
Yeah.
And it's just really fun to be a part of. And everyone is so positive too, which has been super helpful for me.
So I came in at exactly the same point when the Messenger was released. I came in at exactly the same point as you're at with this game, and seeing experienced runners of other games come in and just break records and break records and break records over the first couple of months for these games is really exciting when it's got the support of so many seasoned runners, and then we see new runners come along, people who've never speedrun before, and they're trying things that people haven't thought because they're trying things that they expect to work. It's always a really
good way
time.
to put it.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time to get into a speed game. It's very early in the kind of release cycle.
I'm sad that I missed out on the Messenger's speedrun, like early speedrun life. I didn't play that game actually until like November. And so I just missed out on so much, and that was originally going to be my first speed game actually, but I kind of wanted it to be a new game. And of course, seeing that like, oh, Yacht Club is publishing a new game and it looks really good, I figured that'd be a great place to start.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people from the Messenger. There's a lot of people from Shovel Knight who are involved in running this game. So yeah, seeing names that have come up before in other speed games.
I've enjoyed hearing stories of banter between the runners of like, oh, I remember us doing this during the Messenger and stuff like that. That's a cool little history. It's kind of like story building for the runners.
And it's great that there's such an overlap. That there's, we've come in with a community already in a good kind of condition that they've come from other games, and those other games have really good communities too. So the admins of the Discord are the admins of the Shovel Knight Discord.
Shouts out to that game.
Yeah.
Obviously.
And Yacht Club in general.
Yeah. Yeah, Shovel Knight, I mean, I have a bit of a collecting problem to begin with, but I do own, I think, every physical copy of that game that's been available, as well as, I just own it on every platform that I play games on. I just really love that game a lot. I'm hopeful that they'll take inspiration from that and do some Cyber Shadow amiibo. Because boy, would I love to have a little Shadow figurine on my desk. I'm really interested to see what ends up happening just after this point, just after this boss fight, when we get to the first shrine, or dojo rather. And I know that not everyone is a big fan of carrying the Swag Blade through that. And I personally love to have the Swag Blade no matter what I'm doing. But I know that's been a little bit of a divisive tool.
I don't think I would trust anyone that doesn't want the Swag Blade, because it is called the Swag Blade.
I really want to know why it's called that. I don't know if there's a legit reason, or if it's just because swag. Yeah, it's good though. Yeah, it looks like everyone's kind of come around to it. The thing that's frustrating about it is it does save maybe like 4 seconds here to trigger that explosion early, but it can cost you maybe even a little bit more than 4 seconds, depending on your route through the dojo down there. So Carter has a really good route down. I haven't actually managed to catch some of the more recent streams, so I'm a little bit behind on that, but that was a really solid run through.
So we now have Sticky Ninja.
Is that what you call the wall jump?
No, well, in the messenger, if you get stuck on a wall, you know, as you're trying to drop, if you touch a wall, then you get stuck on it, so you don't drop. Because in the messenger you can actually climb the walls rather than doing the slide jumps. We do that because it's faster. But if you get stuck on a wall, then yeah, we generally refer to that as Sticky Ninja.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's funny. I honestly, I can't remember that much about the messenger, despite like beating the game twice even. But for some reason, I have a hard time recalling the wall climb and stuff like that.
I think that's more times than I've finished it. That's down to the different categories for the game.
What are the categories for that game?
So there's generally two. There's two sets of categories. There's out of bounds and no out of bounds, or 80% and no out of bounds. And then there's 8-bit. Well, there's 8-bit linear and full game.
I did not know that there was out of bounds in that game, but that's really cool. That's some of my favorite stuff in speedrunning is big glitches and stuff like that. I know that not everyone loves it because it can ruin a category if they don't get separated properly. But man, glitches are so cool to me.
Well, I'm just saying there is a nice active community if you were interested in picking up the game.
You know, maybe I will. I own it and I like it. There's no reason not to.
I feel like I should stop plugging the messenger, contrary to what chat is currently saying, because that's not what we're currently interested in.
We can't talk about the messenger chat. We have to only talk about Cyber Shadow.
Yeah.
In fact, every conversation that's happened thus far is entirely in your imagination. We haven't even discussed it yet.
This is not the messenger. It's not that similar. It's a retro ninja platformer, but that's pretty much where the parallels end. They are very different
I agree.
games. They play very differently.
Extremely differently. I love them both because they're ninja platformers, but that's yeah, they're not similar at all, really.
But I do love that. I love that I was speaking with Bobby before about how you can use the same set of words to describe both games, and no one would know which you were talking about. But they're so different. You know, they're retro ninja platformers. They're fairly difficult. There's abilities and there's tight timing platforming and.
Yeah.
Which one am I talking about? Yeah, both of them. But they are so different.
Yeah, that's a good point. I honestly, there's not that many things I feel like I could say to separate them with words. Like it's mostly you just have to play it.
Yeah, play them both.
Which I do recommend playing both. They're extremely good. I think my first playthrough of the Messenger took me 2 hours, which I was real proud of. Because it's not easy. Whereas my first playthrough of this game took me 8 hours. Quite the difference.
Onward rope dart. Yeah, okay. Messenger has rope dart, and there's a lot more abilities. There's a lot more kind of specific abilities in this game.
But you know what the Messenger doesn't have?
Dash?
I was gonna say the song that plays when you unlock Dash, but that's like close enough. I just really love that song.
I just love watching speedrunners on the Mecha Dragon fight because of how much I hated that fight. It was, I think it's probably the hardest thing in the game for me. It was the thing I found hardest at the time.
I had like a weird experience where on my very first try, I did it super easy. Like I had just no issues at all. And then I saw like a lot of people saying like, this sucks and I hate fighting it. And I was like, really? I had no issues. And then I started running the game and every run I had for so long got a reset at the Mecha Dragon fight. It got to the point where I was like, I just can't reset anymore. I'm not practicing the later parts of the game because this dang dragon is taking up all my time. I think who was it? There's a really good speed kill on it that I think, yeah, random guy 1991 in the Discord has an extremely good speed kill on this guy. I love watching the speed kills.
So Manix86, is this a 4-way semi where top 2 make it or 2 individual matches? This is 2 separate semi-final races concurrently. So 2CPlus versus karterfreak and Roll versus Tky619. So it's the left side is one race and the right side is another race. And yeah, 7D Sins, you said your playthrough took 2 hours, but the world record for any percent in the messenger is 1 hour 50.
Maybe it was like closer to 3 then. It was fast, like fast compared to what I expected. I could check even, actually. It looks like 2:45, 2 hours 45 minutes.
Yeah, as Strizer points out, it does say versus on each side of the screen, so you can see 2CPlus versus karterfreak and Roll versus Tky619. You can see that. It's on the screen.
I have an admission to make. I didn't notice that either. I'm with you, chat. I'm on your side. Yeah. everyone is fighting Shadow. That's what this is. The race is for. It's like in old arcade games where like the devs have their high scores that you have to beat or whatever, and they take the characters' names. Wow. Yeah, Carter and Roll both have full HP on their charge blasters here. It's looking pretty positive on skip probability. I've only gotten this skip once myself. I'm with you, the DJ. The blaster is too scary. I much prefer to have the shield.
Is that in order to do the skip?
Yeah. If you have either of those two, and you line up with the door, the bullets or the projectiles of those items will go through the door and hit the button on the other side. So, and it works with the shield or the blaster. But I take a lot of damage, so I really like to have the shield for safety.
So what is all of that intentional damage for?
If you when you get tackled by Subject Alpha there, and they grab you and they like strangle you or whatever, that actually drains your HP down to 1, and it's you know, X amount of time per damage that you take. So that animation that plays beforehand, though, it happens every time regardless, where he slams his head into the ground. So they're just using that animation to bump into him and get down to 1 HP, so they don't have to take the time to be strangled, basically. It's a weird way to say it, I guess, but yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah, that makes sense.
An interesting thing about it, and I guess it makes sense, you can't actually avoid getting strangled by, as far as we know anyway, by Subject Alpha there. We have tried, I know that I have, and I saw at least 2 other people have tried to kill and or avoid him during that entire phase, and eventually he just basically sucks you into his hand wherever you are in the room. But if no one is aware, there's a hunt right now to find the last secret / Easter egg in the game. And there's been no progress made so far, but there's been some desperate things that have gone on, and that's one of them.
Yeah, it even has its own channel on the Discord.
It does. And if you're not in the Discord, you should join the Discord and come help us find the last secret.
If you're not in the Discord, then you are committing crimes.
That's also true, yeah.
That was a really nice fight from TKY there.
There's an interesting thing with Subject Alpha 2, the one that Roll is fighting right now, where during that phase where he was down slashing on the eye over and over, I'm not actually personally sure what causes it, but sometimes the eye will close. I'm sure that somebody knows, I just haven't seen specifically what it is. And you just can't damage the boss during that whole phase while the eye is closed, and that happens to me every now and again, and it wastes a long time. If you strike too early, it closes. Interesting. I didn't realize that.
You know,
I feel like I always go the same speed.
I have seen that discussed in the Discord. That the eye closes if you attack too quickly or too soon.
Yeah, I probably missed that conversation. I think these things move at lightning speed.
Yeah, it's true.
This music doesn't last long enough.
Does any of it?
Good point. Especially in a speedrun. Whoa! That was scary. The roll just dashing across and then downward striking onto that turret. I've never done that, and it honestly freaked me out.
It's great when you run a game and then you see somebody do something and it scares even you as a runner.
Yeah. You know what's really great though is watching four runs at the same time is really opening my eyes to a lot of stress. It's a little hard to keep up, but you know. I am Sora. I think my worst place in the whole run that involves the spiky eyeball is not in chapter 6 actually, but it's in chapter 8. Just after you get the checkpoint near the SP generator. I died there today, probably 4 times. So you said you've never speedrun this game, right?
I've only actually played this game one time.
Do you have any interest in running it?
I do now. I don't know. I don't really have the time to learn a run, and I am on the verge of picking the messenger up again.
Yeah, that's extremely fair. Honestly, I didn't have the time either, but I wanted something that would like motivate me to get a thing done. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And Stryzer posting like there's a race of this in a month. I was like, this is perfect. This is exactly what I wanted. Like just a task to focus on, and this is it. So it really helped to get me motivated to learn it, and that's why I started mostly. I mean, I kind of planned to anyways, but I didn't really have like a, I'm gonna do it in a month or whatever.
So there is one tiny little minor issue that I have with this game, and it is so minor. Level transitions take so long.
I agree with you. Actually, they do take a while. It makes the run feel like it takes too long, and it also really just breaks. It like breaks the pacing a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, and to say that that's the only problem that you have with the game, it's a good game. It's a good game.
Yeah,
I enjoyed this game a lot, and that's the only thing that really bothered me about playing it, was that the level transitions took so long. So if anyone wants to put forward a suggestion on the Discord, maybe put that one forward. See if we can't get a button to skip it.
I imagine that a lot of it is loading, but for some of the later levels, I don't think that that's the case, since a lot of it is just like the route being traced. Like, this is the route you took to get there. What was your hardest chapter on your playthrough?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Mine was chapter 7 for sure, which is where everyone's at right now. I struggled with it today, which is funny, but normally I actually do quite well on chapter 7 now, and chapter 8 is where I end up struggling. But my very first playthrough, I spent probably 4 hours on chapter 7 just dying over and over again. It's kind of where you really learn how important and how useful the dash ability is.
Yeah.
And it does a really great job at that once you really put 2 and 2 together for that. But for some reason, I just had like a vendetta against using dash. I just wasn't doing it enough. And that's where most of my issues came from. But that being said, once you do finally get to the point where you're like figured it out, that's also, I think, where the run starts to get like really fun and it just clicks with you, because you realize that the movement in the game is really intentionally designed and done very well, in my opinion anyways.
Yeah, I can see that. I think that sort of deliberate level design, it puts me in mind of Donkey Kong Country. There's a definite kind of, everything here is here for a reason, and you are to use it.
Yeah, and I think that the game carries that really well as well into the later chapters, where it's like, if you got good at dashing throughout chapter 7, like in that pain and suffering of chapter 7, then the rest of the game, it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be a lot more satisfying and a lot more rewarding, because and we'll get to it, but there's a room in, I think it's chapter 9, where you don't have to touch the ground at any point, and it just feels really good.
Yeah, I think that's probably the part where I struggled.
It's it's not easy at first. I think what I'm hoping for, I see that in chat, they're talking a little bit about growth of the run. I think what I'm hoping for is for some glitches to be found. I don't think that they're going to necessarily, because it's a really solid game.
Yeah.
But I just really love glitch runs of stuff. I love watching the game get broken and people taking advantage of that in just the quickest possible way. And I think that would be fun, but I don't think it's going to happen necessarily. The thing that I really just want to have figured out, that I'm, again, also don't think is possible, is skipping Chapter 8. Because, technically speaking, you can get to Chapter 9 from Chapter 3, but the issue is, obviously, you can't go back through Chapter 7 and 6 to get out. But that's kind of where I'm hoping.
Yeah, I think this is the main problem with a New Game Plus mode.
Yeah, I did a joke run the other day, and it was a bad run, which is hilarious, but I beat the game in 45 minutes by just using the save editor thing.
Yeah.
And doing like a New Game Plus.
So that happened with the Messenger. Someone, not naming names, used not a save editor, but a save was edited to unlock all the abilities, and then the devs added a New Game Plus into the next patch. So it's not outside the realm of possibility.
It would be a fun run, and
I wouldn't bet on it.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people's issue with the run early, like from just the community and seeing how the community felt about the game, is that it's a long run. Especially when you're first starting, it's difficult and it takes a long time. And I think a New Game Plus would be a really fun, refreshing thing to see, because I did terrible and I got a 45-minute run. Like, just imagine somebody who's really good at I bet they could get 20 minutes and maybe 30 minutes, but still, like, I just think that'd be really fun to see.
Yeah, chat saying sub 30 would be possible with New Game Plus.
I think I agree with that. Now, yeah, so the issue is with New Game Plus, I think it'd be easier because the save editor, and maybe I used it incorrectly because I've only used it the once, but I couldn't get airstrike to work, the down strike or whatever it's called. It didn't work, so I actually had to go and kill Biohunter to get it, and then go back and skip through it. And I think that would save a few minutes as well. And New Game Plus obviously would have that. Try running Indivisible. I've only booted that game up once, I'm ashamed to say. Ooh. I really enjoy watching no SP sections as well. Like, just seeing this is a place where I'm looking at Carter's screen right now. He would normally have SP, and right now he's got one, but he didn't have any. And just seeing him take a different route through that room, I like to see that kind of stuff, because I am personally bad at managing SP, so I almost always have to do a no SP route. And it's nice when some of the more skilled players do it, so I can kind of take notes mentally.
Well, if you were ever after a meme category, I think using Cheat Engine to have 0 SP for the run, and only using the the base versions of all the abilities. I think that would be really fun. It would be hard as hell.
I think that would be amazing, though. I
Yeah.
want to try that.
I'd watch that. I wouldn't run that, but I would watch that.
I want to try it now. You've sold me on this idea. I don't know if it's possible.
It is possible.
Is it? I don't know
Trust me.
anything about Cheat Engine.
I will make it happen. If no one else does, I will make that happen. I will make a cheat engine table with 0 SP.
If you do that, you have my word. I'll run it at least once. And then that's when we find out that you need SP in some places or something. I don't think that could be the case.
No.
I'm really looking forward to when 1.04 comes out, because I've been wanting to practice a bit more, like elsewhere around my house, and I have it on a Switch, and I was trying to do that the other day, and just the enemies being in different places and stuff, it messed me up enough that I just couldn't do well, which is not great because really, you know, I should be more adaptable, but it is what happened. So I'm really looking forward to that update. You need SP to cross the bridge in Chapter 2. You're right. That's true.
That is true.
Not if you dash. Well, you don't have dash yet. In this particular case, anyways, because we're talking about if you had New Game Plus, sure. New Game Plus, no SP.
New Game Plus,
One
no
SP
SP.
for the
Let's do
whole...
it.
Yeah. 1 SP for the whole run.
So, okay. That would be difficult.
I don't know how that would work.
I think you would have to start with a save file that only has 1 SP. And then the cheat engine would disable SP pickup. Which would be harder, but still possible, I think.
So yeah, this is the place here where Rollllll and Carter are at right now. I struggle with this one a lot. I've never done it without the security being active, though. I always activate the security there on purpose, so I can hop across with the turrets up top, which is how Carter is doing it right now. But Roll went through without enabling it, and it looked very easy. I should consider that.
I remember casually finding it a lot easier without enabling the security. Just because there's a lot less junk on the screen.
Did Roll just dash into the spikes intentionally, or was that an accident?
I didn't see that. Let's watch that back.
To me, it looked entirely intentionally, but I can't imagine that it was. Maybe HP fill? It could have been. I didn't actually catch what the HP was at. To remove security? Yeah, that makes sense. Because you're not exactly losing a bunch of time to die there. Like I said, it was really interesting to just see the different strategies and routes that other people take. Because honestly, I don't think I would have even done that. I would have probably just ended up dying to the spike without realizing that I should have not. And it's the really tiny optimizations that I like to see. Like TKY just dashed across after getting to the top of that spike room, and I always just try and kill the enemy and not take damage there, and in that way was definitely better. Whoa! That took some bravery from TKY to just dash across the guy on the spiky boy. That was intense. Not something that I would be willing to do no matter where my confidence was at, I think. I don't know if you caught that.
I did not.
There's one of those, the enemies that are crawling and shooting straight up in Chapter 8 here.
Yeah.
Hanging out in the spikes that insta-kill you.
Yeah.
And instead of taking the top route, which I believe everyone else took, they actually dashed directly across the spikes, which could have easily resulted in a death. And it worked. It was very cool to see. You can only do that when the bot hasn't moved too much.
I really enjoyed the boat playing casually.
It's a really cool section. It was frustrating my first attempt because I did die on my first attempt. But after I realized that you can just easily dash into all the enemies, I was like, this is just a really fun... it's just a really fun exercise in dash attacks, basically.
I mostly used shuriken and slashes. And then we got to the end of the fight and it's like, oh, you unlocked an achievement.
I underutilized shurikens in my casual playthrough. Now I definitely don't underutilize them because they're not used for that much in a run, but they're cool. And for some reason, I just never did. I think because up attack is just a little bit awkward for me. And I really should have taken Strizer's advice of mapping up to RB or right trigger or something along those lines. Oh, Roll's at my second worst part in the game, Combinatron. I have to kill myself at least once every time I fight Combinatron. Because the healing is brutal.
I think this was one of the ones that we watched your fight.
Oh no.
And when you actually did the kill, it was impressive.
It's just frustrating, the inconsistency. So the Roll just finished the room I was referring to earlier, where you can just completely dash across. I mean, this whole section is like that, but that room in particular I find extremely satisfying. You'll see Carter is on that room right now, so I guess it's actually a chapter 10 room, not 9. Whoops. I never have SP in this after this room either, so I don't even know how to do the next section with SP.
Ouch.
It hurts to see. I did that my first try. I actually successfully got down there the other day on stream, and there was some people in chat that were like, oh, good shit, like, good job, that was great, and then I immediately died and didn't get it again. I just fell into the hole. Oh. TKY taking a rough death there as well.
Some of this platforming, it's just things that I would never even think to go for, like the room that Carter's in there, taking the left side with the one tile jump there,
Yeah.
next to the spikes. I wouldn't even think to go for that.
So that room, that's the one that I was referring to, and I said I just
Yeah.
never have SP there. So I have to bounce atop the enemies and go onto the block that the turret is standing on. They don't have a ceiling, so you can stand on top of the blocks where the turrets are. And I have to do that for both of them in order to get across quickly without SP. It's still slower, but that's just how I learned to do it. And so when I do have SP, I actually end up screwing up more often than not because I just didn't learn it properly with SP, which is funny. And that's one of those things where I just love to see other people's routes that they take. Roll is on a roll. I struggled with wanting to say that because it wasn't a pun when I thought of it, and then I realized it was a pun, and I was like, oh, I shouldn't say it, but I already thought of it. But Roll's doing very well right now.
It's one of the things that I noticed from my own speedrunning, that when you're not at the very top, it's interesting the things that you do or that you know that the people at the top don't need.
Yeah.
Like knowing where there's always backup health. And you see the top runners and they never need it. But if something happens,
Yeah.
they don't always know it's there because they've never needed it before. So you'll see them take a death that they don't need to take because they were, you know, right next to some health. But because they've never needed to use it or it's been so long, they're not aware of it. So I'll be watching somebody and I'll go, oh, but don't you know about the health that's there?
Yeah. It is crazy to think about too, because that, like, they also, for a lot of them, they never were like at a lower skill level, if that makes sense. Like, I don't want to,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I'm bad at the game, but I'm nowhere near these guys. And they, for some of them, kind of have just always been like this. Like, if you look at Carter, and I talked with him a little bit while he was streaming, so he's been speedrunning since he was young. He was a kid when he started speedrunning. And so a lot of this stuff just comes naturally. And so there's so many things like you're talking about there where, like, they're not going to know about that health that he never even got, like, the base level of because he started at a high level. And I just find that really interesting.
And it's in these races or marathons where you get, you know, you're taking it safe or things happen that you're not expecting and you can't just reset. And that's when...
Yes.
That's when you see people who aren't at that top level would have an advantage because they're used to knowing where these backups are, where these kind of health drops are and that kind of thing.
Just honestly, an incredible run from Roll here.
Absolutely.
And 2C is right behind him. I like to do a downward slash real quick at the end here, even though it doesn't do anything, just because it flashes the room below you for like a second before it fades into the space, and I think it's hilarious. I think watching the final boss fight is my favorite thing, though, about any of these runs. The final boss fight is such a... First off, it's an extremely cool boss, but also it's just like a... It's got a really interesting path of success for a runner, I think. Like, almost everyone I've seen struggled with the boss at first to a huge degree, and then now it's like one of the easiest parts of the run, and it's really fluid and enjoyable to watch. And I think that that's neat. So did Roll get a PB here?
It looks like Roll got a PB.
That's extremely exciting.
It's going to be close. But then the last PB in the last race was close too. Yep, that looks like it's sub 59, which would make it a PB.
GG's. I mean, to everyone.
Apparently a 59.06, which would make this slower than the previous race, which was a PB. But we'll wait for confirmation on that.
This was an extremely close race. It's impressive how close all of these runners are. I mean, all of them hitting the final screen at the same time, more or less. 3-second PB. It's pretty solid, if that's the case.
Roll's official time is a 59.03, which was a PB by 2 seconds. The previous race was a 59.05.
Wow, GG's, everyone, and Roll especially here. I love to see these PBs during races. That was something that was keeping me sane when I was struggling on my run, just seeing people getting PBs. Now PB in the finale to finish it off. Exactly. Both runners are going to get a PB. The credits in this game are really good. I like to just see these screenshots and the bits of artwork throughout.
Alrighty. Well, thanks for doing the commentary, you two. I'm going to get us back to our intermission screen, and we're going to set up for the finals. So everyone stay tuned. Hang on for an extra, 5, maybe 10 minutes here. We'll get everyone geared up. Everyone can stay hydrated, get their water, do all that jazz. And we'll be back in a moment.